Hello everybody out there, how are you doing today? It is time for another edition of Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks. I'm Rebecca, I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in Brevard, North Carolina. And I'm joining you on a very sunny day today, so hopefully the lighting will be with us in Brevard from my house. And last week we looked at knitting charts and I had a few requests and I was already thinking about doing some crochet charts to go over some basics of that. So that's what we're doing today. So crochet charts, the cool thing about them is, first of all, they are just like knitting. They are a physical, like pictorial representation of what things should look like when you're done. Now, they are more universal than knitting charts in that I know Liz has found some Russian patterns where she can't translate them, but she can see the picture and she knows exactly what to do. Whereas knitting, you'll find people have all different things that they will call a stitch and call a different stitch. But we'll go over that in just a second. Let's take a look at some drawings and then do what those drawings say. Let's get to it. So as I was just mentioning, crochet charts are a visual representation of the finished piece from the right side, from what they'll often call the right side or the outside. And crochet, just like a lot of knitting, you tend to flip it around every row to, looking at the marker on my fingers from redoing this, as you finish a row you flip it and head back. So you have to kind of go back and forth when you read this chart. Instead of like knitting in the round, you do always go back and forth for the most part. There's always exceptions. Anyway, each symbol represents a stitch, so look for a key. But as I mentioned before, they're somewhat universal. So once you start learning them, you can Google some of them too. Once you start learning them, you should be able to recognize them. Knitting had a graph. Had boxes because knitting always stacks and the stitches are always the same height. Now crochet, they're not. Crochet, you have different height stitches. That's part of what makes crochet go so fast. So let's take a look at some of the basic symbols. Try to ignore what's over here or I'll zoom this. Basic symbols, take a look. A little oval shaped pea pod looking thing is a chain. Just yarn over and pull through. The little bit of variation you might find on charts is a plus or an X. More often on US charts it's a plus, is a single crochet. And I should mark in here that I am using US terminology on this. Yeah, if I can get my letters to work, right? UK terminology, British and United Kingdom terminology is different. This is US terminology. So a plus or an X is a single crochet. This little guy, this is a double crochet. So here's how this is trying to pictorially represent, without having to draw the whole stitch, that it is a double crochet. A double crochet will have a post and it will have the top little open eyelet part of it. If you've watched my intro crochet pieces, I talk about double crochets as being P's or Q's because they have a loop that is at the top that will stick one way or another depending on how you're looking at it. Now in a chart, it's trying to show that without having to show what side it's on, but that it's got something at the top that you can work into. And if you notice the slash, for 90% of these stitches, how I interpret that is the slash is how many times you yarn over before you do your stitch. So let's write that in. Yeah, if I could get my hand to work as fast as my brain. So if we look at the next one down, the triple or treble crochet sometimes it'll be drawn higher because it's a higher stitch, but also it has 2 slashes on it, which let you know it's going to have a twisty post, it's going to have a top part to it, and you yarn over twice before you start the stitch. Now, I said there are exceptions. Here's the exception. The half double crochet. A half double crochet you do yarn over before you start, but they have to indicate in some way that it is not a double crochet. So this one, it's trying to say it's got a post, it has a top hole, but it is a shorter stitch. And so they try to represent that by not putting the slash mark, because it does start exactly the same as a double crochet, but it doesn't finish the same way. So they're doing what they can to help you see that in a chart. So a couple more things I'd like us to talk about with this. Move this guy over a little bit. Sometimes I really fell in love with crochet charts when I found some that were color coded. We're actually color coded to help you. Different rows are different colors so it doesn't look like just like a hot mess. Like if we look at this one I'm about to explain, it has rows that are black and rows that are blue. And it can help you see what is one row and what is the next. And some will be numbered where the rows start, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if they aren't, look for the chains. Look for those little egg-shaped guys at the beginning of rows. That can help you know where the beginning of the row is, from where you just ended to where you start. And that is because I always use the adage when I'm teaching, you need to go up to go over in crochet. You need to build your height before you can go back or before you can go over. You can't just dive into a stitch if you have not gone up. Go up to go over. So those chains are how you build your height. So look for those chains to know where you're going. So if I was going to read this, and I know the chart is not there, but bear with me. Okay? Here is our starting point in this chart. This is an expanding shawl pattern. If I was going to read row 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to chain 4. And then I'm going, these are all double crochets because we've got post, we have top of stitch, and you know what, I'm going to move this little post over. We're going to go like this for post, and I'm trying to make this as clear as possible, and it's still not going to be that clear. Here's the post. That is the yarn overs at beginning of stitch. Let's try that. Ah ha ha. Yarn overs at start of stitch. I do so much planning and then I do so much just kind of winging it with you guys, right? So row 1 is to chain 4 and then start going over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I tried to write row 1, I would say it is chain 4 and then 6 double crochet. Let's look at the next one. Sorry, I keep moving this around on you guys. Try to keep it in the viewpoint here, right? That means you end over here, right there, with your 6 double crochet, and then we're going to start doing row 2. We start with these chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, I'm going to chain 4. And don't totally be thrown off by there's 3 and then there's 1. That will come into play on the next row. So it is chain 4, double crochet, into, but see where this guy goes down? He is over this second double crochet. So double crochet into second double crochet. Let me try to keep my lettering consistent here. Chain one, double crochet into the next one. Chain one, you could do that all the way across, and the last one you are, let's see if I can do this across. Chain one, double crochet in top chain of chain 4 below. That won't fit. So take a look at how much I had to write out, and I still was abbreviating some of this. Whereas the picture tells us everything we need to know. I'm going to walk us through the rest of this. I've only done row 1 and row 2 here, not all 4 rows. So row 2, when we get to the end of it, row 3, we're going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to double crochet into this top of this double crochet. That can be a weird thing about charts. It's like, where do you put the stitch? Try to see where it seems to be going. It may not look attached in the picture, but that's so things don't get confusing. This guy goes into the top of, it looks like it's going into the top of this stitch, so that's where we're going to go. Double crochet into this double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the same spot, chain 1, double crochet into the next double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the same one. That looks like it keeps going all the way across. This guy at the end, there's a chain 1, and then this double crochet is into the third one here. Not that there, remember there was a chain 4 here. This guy goes into he's into the third chain. Then row 4, there's 3 chains. There is a double crochet into the same stitch we just came out of. There is a chain 1, and then look at this. That's 4 double crochets. They're all over this chain, which when I look at this, I would take as a sign that they are all going into the space. They are going into the space that was made in the middle of what we would call a V-stitch. But again, it's trying to visually look like if you held up what you made, it would kind of look like this. Chain 2, 4 double crochets into the center of that V. Chain 2, 4 into the center of that V. I know my drawing's a little sloppy here, but you're going to do it all the way across. And then at the end, there are 2 double crochets that go into the third chain of the chain 4 that started the row before, because you're back over there. Don't worry if this is a little confusing to just talk through. We're going to do it in a second, okay? Let's take a look at if we weren't expanding out and we were just going across the rows. So this is a flat one, but I've still kept my color coding, and I wanted to show a couple of funkinesses. If you ever see them, you'll know what you're doing. So row 1 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to chain 7. And then, I know it's another chain, but it's the beginning of row 2. Row 2, you're going to chain 1. You're going to single crochet into the first, it's 1 chain away, right? Single crochet in there. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet into the if the numbers work out, you should be back at the end of the chain. Row 3, chain 3, you got to go up to go over. Your double crochet goes into the chain 1 space. Again, unless they specifically indicate it if they have writing in it, I tend to go into the space under the chains when I do that kind of thing. Chain 1, double crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, double crochet into the chain 1 space. This last one, see how these two are so close together? One is going into the chain 1 space and one is going into the actual single crochet itself because it's right over it. Now row 4, going back that way, chain 3. Remember, since it has a post but doesn't have a yarn over indicated, it's a half double crochet, which again, it starts the same as a double, but it's squatter, it's shorter. Half double crochet, chain 1. Now what the heck is this thing? This is what we might call a puff stitch. We can interpret, we have posts that look a lot like a double crochet post, even though some of them are kind of bent. They're still a post that you yarn over to start, but then the top of the stitch, they get combined into one at the end. A puff stitch, you start 3 double crochets, but then you finish them by pulling the yarn through everything. So without writing out what a puff stitch, it's trying to tell you what to do. Yarn over, go in and pull up a loop, start to finish, but don't totally finish. We're going to do 2 more. I'll show you that in a second in the demonstration. But so there's a puff. I'm going to put here puff, chain 1, another puff into the next chain 1 space down here, chain 1, half double, chain 1, half double. I know I just threw a whole lot of gobbledygookly words at you. So let's grab my crochet hook and my big yarn and let's do it. Okay, so I have tried to keep as much of the chart here as I can, but try to remove all the excess words and things that could be distractions. But we want to have a little bit of our key here to remind us. That was going to be way down here off the page. So looking at row 1, what I see, remember start with the chains, I see chain 4 first of all. So I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4. I have done my chain 4. Now the rest of this black row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things that all look the same. They look like this. They're my double crochet. And where they go, the end of them is all hovering over that first chain that I made. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to push into that base chain and pull up a loop and do my sets of 2. That is my beginning chain and 1. I need to do 6. Here is 2, 3, 4, 'Excuse me while I get hung up on my yarn. 5, 6. If I hold that out, I have 7 total if I count my chain as a post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm over here on the chart. Row 2 says to chain 4. So I'm flipping this around, but the other side is going to stay true to what's happening. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my chain 4. Double crochet into not the first one, but the second. Here's my first stitch. I'm going to skip it. I'm going to double crochet in here. I've already done my yarn over, that little hatch mark. I'm going to go in here, pull up a loop, sets of 2. It looks like it's that all the way across. It is chain 1, but from here on, double crochet into the next one. I should have my chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double crochets and a chain 1 between each. So I'm going to chain 1, double crochet in the next one, chain 1, double crochet in the next one, chain 1, double crochet in the next one, chain 1, double crochet in the next one. I am out of double crochets, but if I count, I got my chain and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I only have 5. If I look at the picture, the last one over here goes into the top of the chain. See how charts can be very helpful to figure out what am I missing. Got to chain 1. I have to find the top of the chain that I made the row before and muscle my way in there to do my last double crochet. Now, especially if I turn it around to start the next row, this picture, what this looks like, is very much like this. We have a bunch of double crochets in the first row, and we have double crochets that are spread out by chain 1s. That's what I have. Row 3 starts with 4 chains. Let's do it. 1. Oops, I think I did that totally off screen because I wasn't looking at what I was doing or where the camera was. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, here's the tricky part. Remember, it was a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and they're both going into the top of the next double crochet. Let's backtrack that. Reverse engineer. This is the double crochet that the chains came out of, which is this picture. We want to do what I call a V-stitch into the next double crochet. So I'm going to eyeball that. First one. Second one is right here. So I'm going to do a double crochet in there. And then chain 1, and I'm going to double crochet into the same spot. If you look, this one is what I just did right there. And then it says to chain 1, and then the picture has another V-stitch into the next double crochet. So here's the one I just did. Here's my next one. Double crochet, chain 1, another double crochet into the same spot. The kitty's being nice by going around my work today, but he might jump. No, he's trying to jump up on here. Really, kitty? Okay, so that looks like it repeats all the way across. So chain 1. Here's the last one I did. Find my next one. Do a V-stitch. Oh, I lost some of that. I'm going to start again. Chain 1. One more V-stitch into the same hole. Got to get some more slack going. Chain 1. Find the next hole, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. I got a V-stitch there already. I got 2. Find my next one, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1. Let's look at what's happening on the other end. I just did that chain 1. It's only one double into the third chain. So get ready for my double. 1, 2, 3, 4. I want the third one to keep the shape right. Now if we look at that, it's trying to replicate, or that picture is trying to show us what we did. One more row to go. Row 4 talks about starting with a chain 3. So let's do that. 1, 2, 3. Another double crochet in the same spot we just came from, which is right down here. Double crochet in there. Chain 1. 4 double crochets into the center of this V-stitch. So I'm setting up for my double. I'm locating my V-stitch, that's the center of it right there. I got to put 4 double crochets into this spot. I have 3. One more. Two chains. 1, 2. 4 double crochets in the next V. And if it's hard to tell, remember both of the double crochets came out of the same spot below. That's the shape we're looking for. The center of that is where we are putting our 4. 1, 2, 3. Sorry if I went out of the camera shot there for a second. 4. That repeats until we get to the very end. So 2 chains. Find my next V, which is created by 2 doubles in the same hole. 1, 2, 3. Woo! I'm catching my yarn a little bit. Let me try that third one again. 3, 4. Running out of yarn slack. Chain 2. 1. Here's that hole. 2, 3, 4. Chain 2. There's my last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going pretty quickly on this, so I'm not expecting you to necessarily go at the same pace as me. Again, I can check. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like counting double crochets because you can count the posts. Back up and review if you need to. Let's take a look at the very end of this. It has only a chain 1 and then 2 double crochets in the third chain. Set up for my double. Try to turn this so I can see the V's. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's number 3. I want to put 2 double crochets into this. So if I turn it around, let me put it down here. This, in many ways, everything scooted, didn't it? Is doing what that told me to do. So we have all, and no, it's hiding under there, double crochets and a half shell down here. Double crochets with spaces, which is what happened here. V stitches, which might be hard to see, but here's one of them. Here's the V stitch, which is what that is, a V stitch. And then shells in a way. 4 double crochets into the middle of a V stitch. Okay, let's take a different color yarn and try this little guy down here. Now I've uncovered our chart again. The only thing not on our key, I should say, that's the chart, here's our key, is the puff stitch, which we'll talk about when we get to it. So if we start at the bottom, knitting and crochet charts both tend to start bottom and go up to grow. Remember, this along here was to chain 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's my chain 7. Now row 2 starts by chaining again. But I'm going to skip that one and I'm going to single crochet, see that little plus sign, into the second chain there. So just go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both. Now if I look at this, I can interpret this to say I need to chain 1, chain 1. I should skip one chain below me. I should single crochet into the next chain. So if we take a look at this, here's where my single crochet just went. I want to skip a chain and go into the next chain and do a single crochet. I should do that again. Chain 1, skip a chain here, go into and do a single crochet in the next one, chain 1, skip 1, and I should be at the end to do a single crochet. I skip this one, go into this one. It is my excuse me. It is my base starting chain. There we go. Now it might be hard to see, but these are the single crochets and these are the holes. There's a hole between each one. So let's take a look at row 3. Row 3 starts with chain 3. 1, 2, 3. I decided to do that before I turned it around. Before or after, it's okay. This is my first single crochet below me. This is the hole space. Can you see there's like a V here? That is the single crochet. The spot between them is the holes. My directions are telling me to do a double into the hole, into the chain 1 space. Set up for my double, find the big hole, go in there and do a double crochet. Chain 1, double crochet into the chain 1 space. Here's my single right there. Here's the space. Chain 1, double crochet into the next chain 1 space. There's my V that goes into a hole, so I want the next, it goes into a chain, beginning chain. I want the next big space I can find. The last thing, it says to do another double crochet right away into the top of the single crochet below. So if I turn it around, it should look like row 3. Now row 4 says to chain 3, 1, whoops, 2, 3, and to do a half double crochet in the top of the stitch on the end there. Half double starts like a double. Find the top T, go right under that little spot there, but pull through everything. That's a half double. Chain 1. Now we're going to do a puff stitch. How I interpret this is the last part of the, there are 3 different double crochets that all go in the same space, but they finish off together. So if there was no key for this, here's what I would do. Yarn over, it goes into the chain 1 space, that's the big space here. Go in there and pull up a loop, Start to do your double, but stop before you finish. Start another double. Yarn over, into the same spot, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through. That's almost finishing a second. Start a third, same spot, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through a set of 2. And now if you yarn over and you pull through everything, you have 3 posts with 1 top. That's that picture. 3 posts, 1 top. Chain 1. Do the same thing again. Start 3 double crochets, but don't finish them. Finish them all together. Yarn over, next hole, in and pull up a loop. Do 1 set of 2. Don't finish it. Start another one. Yarn over, into the same hole, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2. Don't finish it. Start a third one. Yarn over, same hole, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, and finish the whole thing off. My 2 puffs, my 2 puffs. Chain 1. These are half double crochets because they don't have the little mark on them. Half double crochet into the top of the chain 3, chain 1, half double crochet. Top of the chain 3 is right here. Muscle in, go through everything, get a little more slack. Chain 1, same hole, half double crochet. So this is what that was instructing me to do. All right, thanks for joining us on this crash course of crochet charts. I know I kind of flew through some of the crocheting itself. I didn't want this video to get super long, but rewatch it, see what you can get out of it. Contact me if you would like to get one-on-one help. I do prepaid lessons for about $15 right now. Project fees and classes start at about $25. But I'm happy to work with you. Zoom has been working really well for people. Please consider subscribing. Comment, ask questions, tell me what you want to see more of. I film as often as I can when the house is quiet. I mean, that's always questionable with my cat and Brian and my stepson. They're gone today. That's why I get the most stuff done on Mondays. I love having them here, obviously, but it's hard to get some quiet work done and for you guys to get clearer time with me. So anyway, I'll go see if I can get a video of my cat, who actually stayed out of the shot today. He was pretty good. And I hope to see you next time. And may your crafting adventures be filled with joy and confidence. See you later. How are we feeling today? Yeah. Some purr therapy for everyone on Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks.